Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bits and Bibles podcast. I am your host, Zachariah Collins, and today is episode 2, Making a Plan. You know, a lot about technology involves planning, and there's a lot of planning that goes into good technology as well. One of the most interesting aspects of that is that people oftentimes don't make plans for growth. And that's a problem we see frequently in IT, is that people have a great idea, and it's not like people are always just willingly ignoring that they need to make a plan. It's just that people get busy, or I'll get around to that, or they, whatever reason they've got, they don't make a plan, but then suddenly they need a growth in IT, or they need some kind of technology piece, and they don't have it in place, and then it becomes suddenly a panic because now they need it, and they haven't taken the time to plan for it. And then suddenly they're rushing and they're trying to get it out. And then oftentimes that leads to stuff being deployed incorrectly because it's being deployed under a rush instead of taking the time to go through it properly. And, I wanted to kind of just go over that a little bit today and discuss, when you're running a company and you're trying to grow, not just run it, but grow it. You got to make some planning. If you're a business owner, a nonprofit owner, or even the pastor of a church, whatever role you're in, you're always in the process of having to plan. You're having to plan for what's the next thing, where are we going next, and you have to take that same mentality and take it over into IT as well. Your technology and your growth in technology as you work on that. The part that's kind of interesting about that is when you are working in technology and you're trying to grow that, you have to think kind of the same way as business planning. What do I do if this happens? What do I do if that happens? How do I get more people to listen? Think about what technology touches in your organization. You use it for accepting donations from donors. You use it for tracking your donors and tracking maybe the people you're helping. And I don't mean tracking because people get a little weird with that, like, oh, tracking. But I mean as in keeping information on them. Whether it's you're helping you're helping a group of people and you need to know their information, like maybe you're running a food bank and you need to keep information on how many families you have and what age demographic you're typically running with. Or if you're running something like a church and you want to try to help keep a list of members, how many members do we have? When you're a small church, sometimes it's easy, you can literally count all them in the room. You get to a larger church and all of a sudden it might be easier to keep that on a list somewhere. But either way, you have to plan. And you have to look at how many things technology touches. Your live stream setup, your internal management, your documents. Where do you keep your files at? How are you going to keep your files safe? What are you going to do to avoid becoming the next story in the newspaper? All these things involve planning. And some places, when they're larger, a lot of your larger companies will get what's called a CIO, CIO, and it's a Chief Information Officer. And that person's job is to do this thinking. But I have to imagine if you're not as big as some ministries or as some nonprofits, that's you. The person listening right now, you may not have that title, but you might be the one that's sitting there going, okay, what do I do? How do I plan for this? What on earth do I even plan for? And you didn't get into ministry or nonprofit probably for the tech. If you're into tech, you probably got into, technology. But when you're a ministry, you're a pastor, you're a nonprofit leader, you're somebody who's running it, probably the technology wasn't the first thought on your mind, and probably right now still isn't the first thought on your mind. In fact, you're probably sitting here going, I'm listening because at the moment I can't have somebody else do it, or I'm trying to plan this because I don't have somebody else that can. And that's my goal here, is to kind of help you, guide you through this, to be that voice of, let me see what information I can help share that you may not at the moment have the bandwidth to bring somebody else on for. I want to see what I can do to help bridge that gap a little bit. And if you're liking what you're hearing, please check us out online, and I'll be posting more content to come. You can find us at most social medias by searching for @BitsandBibles, and that's spelled out BITSANDBIBLES. Will be, and you'll find ways that you can connect with connect with me and this show, and kind of, I want to be able to help people, and this is how I can do it. I can't answer every one of your questions individually, but this is a way I can help share some information. And, to kind of bring a scriptural piece to this, I was thinking about what's said in Luke 14:28-30, which says, "Which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? Lest, after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.'" What's sad is so many companies, we see that in technology, where they started down the right direction. Maybe they got a server, maybe they got email, maybe they got whatever, and then it's just like the progress just stopped. Like, there are so many times I've gotten into environments at the company I work for, and even in previous environments I've worked for, where it's just kind of half set up. You're like, okay, I see where they were starting, but suddenly there's not a finish. And you start questioning, like, what happened? And there's all kinds of things. Sometimes it's staff changes. Sometimes it's finances. IT usually has a cost to it. And, we all can acknowledge that there's, technology isn't the most expensive thing maybe you have, but it's definitely not always the cheapest either. But, you think about it, you start building that out. And if you hopefully take time to plan out everything else and cost out everything else that you have. And it's important that you do the same with technology. That technology piece, I've seen companies crippled over technology. They don't plan, they don't look ahead, and it's been their downfall, and they are suddenly no more. And I've never built and lost a company, so I can't speak from experience on that, but I have to imagine that hits you pretty squarely, and in a way that not many other things might. But as for a lot of you that I'm speaking to, again, I target this podcast at not only just nonprofits and ministries, but especially the smaller ones, the ones that don't have somebody they can bring on. And you're the pastor, the president, maybe the tech savvy guy or gal at your nonprofit, and you're just trying to get some answers. You're not officially someone in IT who's worked in IT or been trained in it or gone to school for it, however you want to put that, but you're the person who's having to figure this out. And one of the best pieces I can offer you is always be willing and ready to learn. And start researching and getting advice. Technology is a constant changing field, and you can't know everything. But as needs comes up, be willing to learn what you can. I mentioned my first IT job was an internship at a ministry in Colorado in Woodland Park, Colorado, called Andrew Wallach Ministries, and their school, Charis Bible College. And there was an IT admin there who was one of our system administrators. His name was Christopher, and he offered me, and this is not an exact quote, but the paraphrase of it, he offered me a piece of advice that has served me well in my IT career, and I think it serves well for anybody that's having to work in technology, whether it's officially your job or you're just the person filling in that role, which is, he told me, never be so proud to not be okay with saying, "I don't know, and let me get back with you." That has served me well in my career, and that has served me well in life sometimes too. And that's a piece of advice I would offer to anyone that has to either be the technology person or just fill that role in, is be okay with, there is a lot in technology. There are a lot of different pieces and parts involved, a lot of different technologies and avenues and all kinds of stuff. Start helping people to understand that you don't know everything about technology, and be okay with admitting that if for some reason you don't. Now, a lot of people who I've found who don't work in technology are very happy to tell you they don't work in technology and they don't know everything. But occasionally, it's still not fun to have to tell somebody, "I don't know." It's not a phrase that appeals to what feels good as people. But I would advise you do that. Take that time and be okay to say, "I don't know, let me get back with you." And then do your research and be willing to learn. That will serve you the benefit and the value of that you can't put a price on it. The other piece of advice, and this is especially targeted at leaders. This is targeted at leaders of nonprofits and churches and stuff, is never be afraid to start taking steps towards bettering your technology. I've heard a lot of people say that they weren't going to make a step until they had every little nuance figured out and they wanted to know every detail and what exactly, and they would just, and then it never happens. You're never going to roll out your entire technology fix in one shot. Now you can I have been a part of some major overhauls that have done some major changes in an environment. But I can tell you, it's not an overnight process. But the best thing you can do is take it one piece at a time, much like everything else in your nonprofit or business or ministry. One piece at a time. For example, if you don't have email, get an email provider. After that, maybe look into multi-factor authentication to make your email more secure. After that, maybe look at, and there's this kind of like keep adding on thing. Especially when you're smaller, even when you're bigger, you aren't always going to be able to roll out something all at once. But pick a starting point, pick the next step, and get that rolling. Because at least you're making progress. I'll give you an example. I used to do audiovisual for a church that was called Grace and Faith. And I remember when we started introducing live stream, and this is an example of just get it rolling, was we introduced live streaming. The live stream setup was a $1 camera tripod thing that I'd found online and my cell phone. And my cell phone was doing room audio, so the audio was not great. I can still go back and look at videos. And I'm like, oh, why? And again, it was what we had. But, you want that quality. And I started working with that. And then I got a little mic, I think it was, for the camera later. And then we eventually got tie-in with room audio off the soundboard and just things. But it started with just getting it going. And then as people saw the benefit of it, we had the chance to start adding on from there. Same thing with technology. Find something, an initiative, a problem that needs solved. That's the biggest part. Find the problems and then find a way to solve them. Find the problem that needs solved. Find a way to start solving that problem. And then start just rolling pieces. Even if they're small, start rolling pieces out. And as you get that going and people see the benefit, traction will build and you will start being able to do more. But I can guarantee you, if you never try to at least take a step, your technology will never change. It will fall behind and eventually it will become archaic. And it will either cause one of two things. It will either cause your business to fall apart and fail, or it will cause a sudden emergency that will cost you way more time, way more stress, and way more energy, and possibly roll out the wrong solution, but the closest one you could get really fast. And again, I've been a part of implementations that have gone both ways. And I can tell you, I would prefer someone who's trying to do a little bit at a time and at least make progress than someone who waits for it to become so old and archaic that it's an emergency. Because it never goes well from there. And you will always regret that. Always. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit, as I talked about learning. You might ask yourself, well, that's great, but where do I go to learn this? There's so many places you can learn something from. How do I just magically learn this? Well, there's no magically learning it. It's time. You can talk to anybody you know that's in the IT profession. Time is the best teacher. And as you guys know, that's even true for things that aren't technology related. Time is the best teacher. And as you learn and you go through time, you start realizing that everything around you takes that time. And as you work on it, you start realizing that you have to dig a little. People that learned, people that became successful, it takes some digging. And I'm going to give you a couple suggestions. One thing is look at tech podcasts or go to tech forums. This is not a paid for endorsement, but anybody in technology is probably here. Reddit is a big one. Now, there's stuff on Reddit I don't approve of, I don't like, But when it comes to technology, you can find a lot of answers on Reddit, and a lot of people on Reddit that are willing to answer your question, because IT is a very community-based industry. So I go to Reddit sometimes for things when I start getting over my skill set or my head on something. Go online, ask questions. Ask questions of people you know in technology. They may not have the time to implement something for you, or may not have the availability to say, hey, yeah, you can pay me to do this, or I'm willing to volunteer my time. But they might be able to point you in the right direction. Sometimes that's all you need, is you just need a point. You just need to know where to go next. Baby steps. Sometimes the next question is just, where's the next step? It may not mean you're at the finish goal line, but you've taken the next step. Online videos. And circle around podcasts. You're listening to one right now. And there's a lot of podcasts out there about technology. There are a lot of podcasts I listen to about technology. And there's a lot of information. Again, not a personal endorsement, but if you guys have ever listened to like any of the stuff from Linus Media Group, they have a lot of stuff that's very user-friendly out there. That's an example of one. There's just a lot of different people that offer technology videos and are happy to help people try to bridge the gap and make technology make more sense. Online videos, like I said, YouTube, you will find a lot of different videos. I have learned how to implement systems from YouTube on the professional side of things, where you're getting into pretty complex systems. So never be afraid to go to Google search a video. We all Google search, so Google search for videos. And here's one I think that not maybe a lot of people use, but is a good resource. Call another nonprofit or ministry that does the same thing as you. Now, if for some reason you feel like this person might be in competition with you, I understand you're kind of calling them. But find another one around the country. I mean, you don't have to call the one next door. Google search the type of ministry you have or the type of church you have. Find someone who's bigger that's already doing it, and give them a call and see if they're willing to talk to you. I have been genuinely surprised how often I can go, hey, can I ask you a few questions about how you guys are set up? And most people are like, absolutely, let me try to help answer some questions. Have I had a few people that have been weird about it? Sure. But typically, I found people are very open. I know one ministry that I was helping a friend of ours with their ministry, and they had some questions about the process, and I found another place in town that did the same thing, just a little differently. And I called them, and I got up to one of their director levels. They weren't a huge ministry, but, I still got up to one of the senior levels, and they were willing to discuss with me and talk to me a little bit about some of the stuff they've gone through trying to run this kind of a ministry that they were running. So don't be afraid to ask. People are always open to sharing. And that's the thing, is you're going to find, like I said, technology is very community. Just ask. If someone decides to be a pain about it, move on and ask the next person. You're going to find somebody who's willing to answer your questions. If they can't help you, at least they're going to try to get you pointed in the right direction. So let's talk about making a plan. How do you build a technology plan, right? Here's where I'm going to give you some free advice here, all right? And like I said, and this is my little plug, if you guys like what we're doing and what I'm doing here and what I'm hoping eventually to do more, please, if you're on like one of our audio-based ones, like Anchor or Spotify or one of those, follow us. If you're looking at our YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're looking at Facebook, follow and like. Whatever platform you're on that we're on, keep up with us, please. And you can all those you'll find ways that you can support. If you like what we're doing and what I'm doing here, consider supporting. And that's all the plug I'm going to give. I'm not going to give you a long thing, but if you like it, please stay in touch, please support, etc. But how do we build a technology plan? So here's my kind of 7 steps on building a tech plan. 1, sit down with each person in your departments. And again, if you're small, who knows, you could be 3 people. If your department's 3 people, if your entire nonprofit is 3 people, sit down with all 3 of them. Some of you who have largers, you might have to sit down with them in groups and do separate groups. For those of you that might be smaller, you might have to sit down. You could sit down with your whole team. But either way, sit down with each of the quote-unquote departments or people. Find out what challenges each of those departments are facing. Are they email-based? Are they live stream, website, customer relations management, internal management? Document management, maybe, there's just a slew of things. Security. Make a list after you get done. So after 1, you've sat down with your team. 2, talk with them about their problems that they're having, that technology, that they need solved. 3, make a list. Just start writing it out. It could be on a notepad, it could be a Word file, it could be anything. Start making a list. After you get done with that list, prioritize that list. What are the things that are going to have the most benefit the quickest? And which things, if there's any ones that could cause pain for the company or for the nonprofit or could cripple it, also prioritize those. But look at which ones could have the most benefit or the most harm if not handled. Then, so you prioritize. Now that you've prioritized, figure out the cost. This is the research part. So all the research I've said leading up to this is now where the rubber meets the road. Research the cost and research what's going to take. Now take that list that you've costed out and put the cost there. Now, as you research that, and that was 5 and 6 kind of go together. It's researching and then costing. Research the solutions and then find out what they cost. After you've done both those, the last step is to select 1 or 2. So after you've sat down with your team, gotten a list of the problems, made a list of the challenges, prioritized that list, figured out what the costs are for each, began and researched the solutions and their costings, then select 1 or 2, implement, get them through their implementation, and then go back to the list and start the next 2. And just keep repeating that. When you have run out of problems, go back around to your team and I guarantee you they'll give you another list. So those are the 7 steps. Sit down with your team, find the challenges, make a list of the challenges, prioritize that list, research solutions, get the costs, and implement. Those right there will get you set up for all kinds of success in this. Now, something interesting I wanted to talk about, and this may be kind of my last little topic for this one, is where are people at in this plan making thing? Because, people have a lot of different places they're at in making plans. And I noticed something. I'm a part of a group on Facebook that is specifically targeted at small pastors of small churches. And I asked him a question one time. I put a poll out there to the group, and I got permission to, I asked, hey, if this is okay, I want to do this in the post. And I asked 4 questions. I asked him to answer to me where their nonprofit was at, where the nonprofit or ministry was at, and I gave him 4 options. Option 1 was, yes, I have the technology, resources, and people to succeed. Or I have the tools, resources, and people to succeed in technology. And succeeding being completing your objective. Whatever your objective is as an organization, whether you're a church, a nonprofit, a business, I have the tools and the resources and the people to do that. 2 was, I have the people with the skills, but I don't have the technology and the resources to succeed. And then number 3 was, I don't have the tools and resources, I don't have the tools and resources, but I do have, I have the tools and resources. Sorry, I have the tools and resources, but not the people. And the last one was, I have neither the tools, resources, or people to succeed. Now, what I found interesting about that is, as I read through that, I went, I'm interested to see what people come back with. Here's what I found. Out of those people, the 20% said, and for anybody that's here, if anyone in this group hears this and looks at back at that post and then realizes the numbers sound different, that's because I accidentally deleted one of the answers from it partway through the thing and had to re-add it. And I thankfully took note of how many votes that one had, so I just added them on here at the end. For the first one, yes, I have the tools, resources, and people to succeed in technology. Out of the people that I polled, 20% said yes. They have everything they need, which is great. Those people are in a good place, and they're ready to go. Just keep moving forward. And in their case, they're really more of in a build place. They're like, okay, I already have what I have. I'm just going to keep building and growing and improving. Only 1% said, this was interesting. 1% said, I have people, but I don't have the tools and resources, which really didn't surprise me, because most commonly the problem isn't tools and resources, it's people to do it. There's a good chance if you're listening to this podcast, you might be in that place. You've got maybe some finances to put towards IT. Maybe you already have some tools like an email provider or a website or something, but you don't have the people. In this case, this is the exact opposite. Person had the people, one person at least, had the people with the skill set, but apparently wasn't at a point financially where they could move forward with it or resources. The next group being, I have the tools and the resources that we just discussed, but I don't have the people. This by far won the most at 49%. 49% of people said, so pretty much half, said I have the tools and the resources, but I don't have the people. Most of you listening probably are in this category, or at least not most, but a lot of you, where you have tools, you have finances, you have resources, you maybe have tools already, but you just don't have people to implement it. And again, I'm hoping with this podcast, I can help you guys figure that out. And my advice, especially if you believe in the power of prayer, pray for people to fill those roles. Not just volunteers, but paid staff as well. Pray for the right people to fill those roles, because the right person in those roles will take you places. The last group said, I don't have the technology, the resources, or the people to succeed. Or I don't have the tools, the resources, or the people. And that was 30%. So still, the second largest group. So the first largest group said, I have the tools and resources, but no people. So that's the first group. The second largest group said, I have nothing. I don't have the tools, I don't have the resources or the money, or I don't have the people. Right there, that group out of all of them is the group I want to help the most. They don't either they don't have the tools or don't know about tools. They either don't have the resources or don't know what to do with those resources, and they don't have the people. Or I guess if they maybe in the off chance have the people and not sure what to do with them either. My goal is to help especially those two groups right there, because those two groups account for 79%. 79% of the people are either don't have any of it or are lacking the people. And my goal with this podcast, and as we continue on this podcast, is to help bring those resources, in the sense that I can show you what, where, for example, if you tell me I can't afford a paid version, let me show you free tools. We're going to be discussing free tools in this podcast. People might be saying, I just don't know what tools are out there. I need to do email campaigning. I have no idea what tools are out there. Help explain what tools are out there and the cost for them. Or I don't have people. I'm going to be trying to do episodes on how to find the right talent, how to find the right people, etc. So just as you listen, let's hang on for this ride together. And I'm hoping to help bring that to light here. So I want to say, guys, I appreciate everyone. I appreciate you listening in. I appreciate you listening today. I hope this has helped you. I hope to further help you with this. I hope to see you back here again with this. Again, if you want to find us online, a couple ways you can find us: bitsandbibles.com, bitsandbiblespodcast.com, and on Facebook at Bits and Bibles. On Facebook and on YouTube and on other social medias, most of them you can find us at Bits and Bibles. So, looking forward to coming back here with the next episode, and I'll talk to you guys later.